Hi there. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Crystal Wittevrongo, collaborating with Common Sense Edmonton, here today with Mark Hillman, who is running for Edmonton City Council for Ward papastew in the upcoming 2025 election. Mark, thank you so much for being with me here today.
Thank you, Crystal. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I'd love to hear more about you. What background and foundation gives you, the confidence to move into City Council?
Yeah, so my background is in finance. I think everyone kind of knows me at this point as the money guy. But really, what my background is, I have an educational background in business management, and I've spent the last 7 years as a financial implementation architect. That's a fancy way of saying I essentially what I do is I come into a company and I reinstall their entire financial system, make sure all their books are balanced, their budgets are in order, and I create their financial reporting so that all like the board of directors can understand what's going on and all that sort of thing. So how that's practical in council, if you think about it, it's imagine city hall or city council is given a budget or a proposed budget from administration. I would make those budgets. So that was kind of my job. But I do that on a private company and a nonprofit level. So my emphasis is nonprofits. I started my career with various different companies or in different industries, but for the last 4 5 years or so, it's been mostly nonprofits around the world. So
Wonderful. It sounds like something that city council might need from what I'm hearing from
I've
people on the
been told
ground.
that.
And so, what are you hearing on the ground from people? Like, what are some of the priorities for your
Yeah.
ward in this upcoming election?
So my ward, the number one priority I'm hearing, hands down, it's not even close, is the zoning bylaw, bylaw 20001. That's the biggest concern. And most people say their concerns, they just say infill, which okay, they know it as the infill bylaw.
Hmm.
Um, other concerns I'm hearing, big ones, are value for our property taxes. Here's a fun fact, we have the second highest, our city, not just my ward, but our city has the second highest residential property taxes of any city in the province. It's a lot.
Yeah.
We're not, and I'm not promising anyone I can lower those taxes because I've looked at the numbers. It's gonna be hard, really hard to
Hmm.
promise that. Um, but we just want to get some value for that. If we're paying the most, shouldn't we be getting something for that at the very
Hmm.
least? And then safety and security. Those are all main huge concerns. Like right now, there's a huge lack of confidence in our LRT, for example, and transit in general, just because people don't
Hmm.
feel safe, and that's a huge problem. So
Yeah.
those are the big ones.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, they're all very important issues and stuff I'm hearing from people on the ground as well. And so that, understanding the challenges is one thing, but then understanding who is best positioned to actually do some of the things that Edmontonians want. And so, in your view, what is the role of city council and what should city council be doing?
Yeah, I think the role of city council is to really be the decision makers there, to be the ones who we kind of have an interesting relationship between council and administration. Administration does a lot of proposals. They do a lot of this is how it's going to be done, the itty gritty of things.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's up to council to kind of interpret that and ask the right questions and say, hey, we want this. So at first it starts, council says they want something. This is broadly what we want. Administration takes it away, gives a proposal on how it's done. And then we're supposed to assess that, hey, are you doing your job or is this being done efficiently? I think the problem we have right now in the city is our councils, it's a little bit of the tail leading the dog, if you
Mm,
will. I feel administration, they've realized they have a council that doesn't know what they're doing. And I can see that with particular fiscal things. Like my background's in finance. So when I see budgets and proposed budgets and whatnot, I see that administration proposes, hey, we want to do this. Council's job is to say, hey, great, but no to this or yes to this. But council's just been rubber stamping pretty much everything administration
mm,
wants to do.
mhm,
So we didn't elect our administration. We elect our city councilors.
mhm.
So we need them to lead. And they're not. They're just letting administration tell them what's best.
Mhm. And what do you think about the relationship with the provincial government on city council and how that's kind of shaken out lately?
I think it's very poor. We have
Hmm.
an incredibly poor relationship with the province. Uh, I always tell people that the job of a counselor and what my job would be to work with we work with the provincial government. And I think that applies to
Hmm.
the city. A municipality is a creature of the province. That's kind of the
Hmm.
vein of how it's defined. Um, but our job is to work with the province no matter which party's in charge.
Hmm.
UCP, NDP, Flying Spaghetti Monster Party, doesn't matter. Um, that's not to say we're like necessarily like have to bow down to everything they do. And there's going to
Hmm.
be things we have to push back and argue and say, hey, this isn't we don't necessarily agree with this. Uh, a key example I like to point out to people with how dysfunctional our relationship is and how it actually affects us. If you look at the ice district deal and the cats deal that recently happened, and
Hmm.
I'm not going to argue the merits, the pros, cons. There's a lot of things I like about it, a lot of things a few things I don't. Um, but there's one part that I think is really kind of displays the relationship we have with our province. The province essentially came in and said, "Hey, here's the deal that's going to happen. You
Hmm.
have a week to decide, yes or no. Take it or leave it."
Hmm.
We've told the province essentially that we are only, no matter what they do, we're going to criticize them for it, no matter what.
Hmm.
So they're and they can do that. So their thought, the province's thought is it's easier just to give us ultimatums and say this is how it's going to be because you're going to
Hmm.
criticize us anyway. So tough luck. Why would we bother working with you?
Hmm.
So I feel that's incredibly dysfunctional. I understand where the province is coming from in that end, but at the same time, I
Yeah.
don't like it. It's kind of it's very heavy-handed,
Hmm.
but at the same time, we've given them no reason not to be that way.
And
So
so what
it
would
takes
you
two to
do?
dance. But
Yeah. Yeah. What would you do differently, like if you're in council?
yeah, so I think the first thing I would do is, um, I guess it's not what I would not do is how it's supposed to work is if there's a proposal that the province wants to do or some big idea they want to do in our city, they're supposed to come to us, discuss with us, and if there's things we don't like, we're supposed to talk with them and say, hey, can we work on this? What we're doing now is if the province does something, we immediately go to social media, we immediately go to like and blast how evil they are to
Mm-hmm.
everyone because we think it's going to score. Like there's a few counselors who think it'll score them some political points because in some words it's popular to pick on the province
Hmm.
instead of actually focusing on real issues that we actually have a say in.
Hmm.
So that's what I would not do, is needlessly pick on the province for political expediency. So
Awesome. And so kind of going back to one thing you mentioned in the opening there was property taxes.
yes,
And people are unhappy about property taxes. The increases have felt really unsustainable for a lot of folks. Um, what is your perspective on what should be done when it comes to property taxes?
yeah. Um, over the past 4 years, our property taxes have risen by 21.5%. It's an insane increase.
Hmm.
Um, and that's this council. What it boils down to is an over reliance on property taxes as a source of revenue in the city.
Hmm.
Every city, the property taxes is the main driver of revenue for sure. But we have seen over the past several years that increase even more and more and more. The percentage of the revenue that our other source of revenue bring in has
Hmm.
drastically decreased, and that's not because they've gotten worse or we've collected less of it. It's our spending isn't keeping up with our growth. Our growth isn't keeping up with our spending.
Mm, mm.
That's the
Yeah.
fundamental problem. Um, we're not focusing on the core mandates of the city. There's a wide variety of reasons for it. Some of them
Hmm.
are not necessarily within the city's control, and I'll acknowledge that. Um, but a huge portion of it is. A huge portion of it boils down to irresponsible spending and projects going over budget, projects being delayed and behind schedule, and surprise, it costs more than we thought it would cost. Oh, what do we do? We have to eat. We only have two mechanisms we can play with: either raise property taxes or increase our debt on the capital
Hmm.
expenditure budget. And we're doing both. at an
Mm-hmm.
alarming rate because we're spending at an alarming rate.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that
So yeah,
spending should be cut then?
yeah. So what we need to do, I don't necessarily think spending needs to, like, just spending needs to be cut on the operating budget. So
Mm-hmm.
just we have two budgets in the city: the capital expenditure budget and the operating budget. Um, the operating budget, I have some issues with it, but it's not the end of the world. And that's kind of maintaining our core services, the things that people
Mm-hmm.
Edmontonians expect. The biggest problem I see is on the capital expenditure side. We had a capital expenditure budget of $10.4 billion over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And by this time last year, so about halfway through that budget, we were already 1.5 billion over budget.
Mm.
We're blowing through it. So does that speak to an inability to budget? Does it speak to we just don't have enough money? Does it speak to we're spending too much on extra projects? And for context, a capital expenditure budget, it's designed to be the budget that we use for improve more things, like new things,
Mm-hmm.
like electric buses, that would be in there. Um, rec centers that are being two rec centers that are being built on the south side right now. Um, the average rec center in Edmonton costs about $120 million for a
Mm-hmm.
good standard rec center. We have two that are being built right now. One of them is around 260 million. The other one's over 300 million.
Mm. Okay.
Why? Like, so it's not that um, we do need to cut spending, but where we need to cut it, that's what
Mm-hmm.
matters. And I don't want to cut it in core services. And right now we do have the option of doing that. We just don't cut core services, obviously. But if we
Mm-hmm.
focus on, I'm not promising any pet projects. That's basically maybe that's my biggest thing here. I'm not promising anyone a new rec center. I'm not promising anyone a new fancy anything right now. I want to maintain what you got and let's get financially stable.
Mm-hmm. So you think that City Hall's basically taking on too much at the same time, essentially, with these
Absolutely, we are.
projects. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, we are. We're taking on far too many projects at the same time. And I'm not proposing we can some of these projects that are already like halfway through, because I feel that'd
Mm-hmm.
be a misuse of taxpayer dollars too. I'm proposing we get some of these projects off the books. Of
Mm-hmm.
that 10.4 billion dollars, over 8 billion of it is tied up in ongoing projects. So the vast
Okay.
majority of it is ongoing things.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to clear up some room here to spend, we just got to stop adding new things to the docket for a while.
Mhm, mhm. And core services is something that, lots of Edmontonians have reported they feel is slipping, like snow
Hmm.
removal, for instance. So, cutting a budget for that isn't a popular thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I absolutely do not want to cut the budget for like snow removal or things like. If anything, there are things in the core services department that need that do need more. For some,
Mhm,
an example, like I'm not bylaw enforcement. I'm sure we've all kind of experienced the lack of bylaw enforcement in our city to some extent.
mhm,
Snow removal, the snow removal budget of the city last year was $67 million.
mhm,
It's a lot of money,
mhm.
but it fluctuates each year. We don't control the weather,
Yeah.
so we have to be able to budget that. Um, the most frustrating thing I hear is when for snow removal, it's like, oh, we didn't budget and we didn't have enough money in the snow removal budget. It's like, well, that just speaks to a lack of being able to plan.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, I want to make sure we have what I want to do is I want to make sure we have enough funds to address things like filling your potholes, getting your snow removed on time. Like those are things I think everyone just expects to happen and are the most important. Those are the priorities. They're the not really fun or glamorous part of politics, but it's the things that matter.
Well, and the core services of municipal government aren't sexy. It
No, they're
is
not.
those things of, making sure the streets are clear and making sure that they're safe and those sorts of things.
Yeah, wanting to engage in things that are a little more, a little sexier in the political realm has kind of gotten us into this hole that we're in now.
Hmm.
Um, I I just want to get us back to the basics. I want to be my goal would be that I'm the boring counselor who is day to day standard, and if you forget about my name after the election, great. And if you know I'm doing my job and you're not worried about it.
Stability, transparency,
Hmm.
accountability, all the
Yes.
things that are a little bit more boring, I think, is what city councils across the province are really in need of. At least that's what I'm hearing. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and so you mentioned at the very beginning the infill development and the bylaw around that. So I have heard quite a bit around people being just drastically unhappy about
Yeah.
how they were engaged or not engaged during that process and the results that have started to already unfold for many residents. What are your thoughts on that? And what should the city be doing in this regard?
Yeah. Mhm. Engagement was abysmal. The city will say that they inform you were informed. They started this process and said what would happen about in 2021-ish.
Hmm.
Sent out a survey, say that here's what we're planning on doing. Um, and it was very vague. Like, I actually read a lot of the documentation around it, um, and it was long. And I'm gonna be honest, most people don't aren't gonna read that, and I think they knew that. And they released a lot of this information around Christmas time, around like time when people were busy, and
Hmm.
this isn't going to affect us for a few years. And people are like, okay, it's not like they're going to put an eightplex right beside me on a mid-sized block single family home. That's insane. No one thought they would be doing that. Even the
Hmm.
people I talked to who were actively engaged in 2020, like years ago, for this process, they're like, yeah, I had no idea, no
Hmm.
clue. I thought I read the entire thing. I thought, no clue. And so today, if your neighbor sells their house to a developer and it's a large enough lot, so a 50-foot, 100-foot back lot, or so a standard single family home lot, they can build an eightplex on it.
Hmm.
They don't have to inform you. They don't have to let you know. You get no consultation. You get no say. You get no appeal. You get nothing.
Hmm.
And tough luck.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at right now. We have And I could go on for the rest of this about the many issues, the parking, the infrastructure concerns, school capacity, all those things. But fundamentally, I feel if I'm going to pick on two things wrong with this zoning bylaw,
Hmm.
um, the first is the blanket nature of it. It's effectively one size fits all.
Hmm.
There's some nuance in there, but not enough, or not a lot at all.
Hmm.
Um, we've effectively handed over control of urban planning of the city to developers.
Mm.
That's what we've done.
Okay.
And a developer is their main priority is to make profit. And I don't begrudge them for that at all. Their job is to work within the framework that we establish as a city.
Hmm.
We've given them a sandbox environment to work in. They can do whatever they want, wherever they want.
Yeah.
And here's so problems you have with that is they'll build somewhere. They're under no obligation to think of the infrastructure requirements. If we have to if they put an aplex there and suddenly EPCOR can't service that area because there's not enough, it's up to the city has an obligation to go upgrade the infrastructure in that area.
Yeah.
So those are some concerns I have. The second biggest thing is what you mentioned, the lack of consultation. There
Hmm.
is nowhere in this bylaw that requires community feedback or consultation to these. Nowhere.
Hmm.
That's insane. So it's I think we need a drastic overhaul, if not repeal, of this bylaw, and we need to do it as quickly as possible.
And so, how do you feel about the need for densification in areas? And how do you balance that against some of the concerns of the more mature neighborhoods and the concerns about character and such?
So we do need to build. No one denies that. I'm not against
Hmm.
infill. I'm really not. I'm against it being done irresponsibly,
Hmm.
and that's what we're doing right now. Um, what we need to do is we need to have a district overlay because not every neighborhood's the same.
Yeah.
Some neighborhoods, like I'm going to pick on one neighborhood in my ward, Belgravia. There's two ways in and out of that neighborhood.
Hmm.
Traffic has been a nightmare in that neighborhood for the last 25 years. It
Hmm.
is people cut through there to get to the university, to get to the hospital. It is, and there's an LRT station there. There's one intersection that I was speaking to one of the neighbors there. There was a fire in Belgravia. It took the fire truck 22 minutes to get into the neighborhood. That's
Wow.
insane. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't okay. And now, on top of that, we're adding Belgravia and the neighboring neighborhood, McKernan, have some of the most eightplexes going up in the
Mm.
city.
Mhm.
and they're not even finished yet. So once they're done, you're going to have dozens of eightplexes with no parking anywhere,
Mhm.
getting into one of the already most difficult neighborhoods in the city to travel. So we need to consider things like that, but this bylaw isn't
Mhm.
considering that. It's treating every neighborhood the same, and that's not okay. We need to look at neighborhoods like Belgravia and be like, hey, what are the geographic implications of doing this?
Yeah.
What's the reality here? And then we have to zone based on different districts. Some
Mhm.
neighborhoods can absolutely take an eightplex within
Mhm.
reason, within parking requirements. I feel there's a lot of things that need to be added to make sure that's done responsibly instead of just building a big box monolith. Um, but I'm not against developers building. I think we
Mhm.
do need to build, but they need to have some guardrails here.
Yeah. And so what do you think needs to be changed about the way that this city engages residents in processes like this? Like what concretely would you suggest in that regard?
Yeah, so I think what we need to do is there's few things we can do concretely. Um, the first and most obvious, I think it comes to our counselors to showing up. I think that sounds like a very, very low thing to be promising, but we have counselors who just have not shown up at
Mhm.
all. In my ward, I'm at 7 form debates right now that the current incumbent has refused to show up.
Mm.
He sent a statement. So I think expecting our having the expectation of our counselors that they show up to things
Mhm.
and they're actually and to be held accountable and to actually answer questions, I think is the
Mhm.
first. Concretely, I think what we need to do um, is we need to work with the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues. Right now, over the past few years, like during this term, it
Mhm.
went from more of an organization that and they do great work. I don't want to bash them. I don't want to be taking this as bashing them too harshly. But over the past several years, there's been a shift in how that organization operates. It used to be they represent the community leagues to administration. That used to
Mhm.
be the flow. There was a change, I think it was in 2021, that reversed that. The Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues is beholden to the administration and tells the community leagues is kind of works the other direction.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's not, I don't think that's the way it should work. So you have a lot of community leagues that are afraid of stepping out of line or saying the wrong thing, or um, during this campaign, for example, I've had community leagues who have said we can't host an event here because we've been told that we can't do anything political.
Mhm.
Isn't that your job, literally? Like you're the community. Like, isn't your job to represent the community to the city
Yeah.
council? Like that's literally your job. But lo and behold, we have city community leagues that refuse to host anything because they're scared of
Mhm.
they don't know this new dynamic.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads me to my next thought of, when you say they're scared, is transit safety. Lots of
Yes.
people are very hesitant to take transit at all.
Yep.
Ridership is decreasing. It's not at all at levels that anybody would expect. What do you think needs to be done to enhance public safety, or at least the public perception of safety on transit?
Yeah, I know our LRT and our transit system like to take a lot of heat right now, and I totally understand why. But I want to make something clear. I think we have an amazing transit system.
Hmm.
It's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. Conceptually, our transit system is quite nice. The problem we have is exactly that, the safety and security. No one wants to use it.
Hmm.
Um, our LRT stations have become homes for the homeless, which is another question, and I definitely think we need to address it. Um, but I don't think that's the answer, is to just
Hmm.
be there. It's become a place for violent crime.
Hmm.
People just don't feel safe on it. I've spoken to multiple. This isn't just a one-off story either. I've spoken to multiple parents who have bought their kids cars so they can drive to university, so they didn't have to take the LRT.
Hmm.
Like I would have loved that when I was in university. But um, but so you probably have some pretty happy university students, but that's not every parent can afford to do that for their kid.
Hmm.
Um, what we need to do is we need to bring safety and security back to the LRT. We need to bring it back to our transit system, and I think that starts with actual enforcement on it.
Hmm.
Right now, we have peace officers who do great work, but they're on the LRT, for example. They're only allowed to observe and report.
Mhm.
Notably, they're not allowed to enforce.
Yeah.
The lack of enforcement, again, if there's no enforcement threat there, then there is bad actor, like is bad acting is going to happen in some way, shape, or form. It's going to be disorder, crime, what have you. But if we bring, say, EPS or somehow allow our peace officers to enforce in some way, um, what that does is it does three things. One, the most notable is we have someone there who can do something about it when something does happen.
Hmm.
Surprise. Um, Two, it dissuades. It dissuades a lot of the crime from
Yeah.
happening in the first place. Just that presence there, like, dissuades a lot of the problem. And then finally, it adds that sense of the reassurance to people,
Hmm.
that confidence in it that is lacking. I challenge you to ask people, like ask anyone in the city, and odds are they're going to say they do not feel confident in the LRT or riding on it.
Hmm.
That needs to change too. Confidence in it, like, affects perception, and perception can become reality.
Yeah.
Um, so we definitely need to address the perception of that it's unsafe, because that perception is rooted in some fact right now.
Hmm.
Um, so we need to start by addressing the facts that fuel the perception, and then the perception will change.
And so would you be in favor then of having, a police presence on the
Yes.
LRTs, for instance? Okay.
Yes, I'm very in favor of having that. Yes, I feel
Hmm.
that's just common sense at this point. Like, I don't. Every city I've done. I'm the book nerd who does his research. Every city in the world that, pick one. I don't care what city you pick. They have seen, if you include a police presence that's allowed to enforce on their transit system, they see somewhere between a 50 to 80% decrease in crime.
Mm.
It's insane. So there's a
Hmm.
few outliers that are more than that. It's it is it seems to me to be an obvious,
Hmm.
um, but it's something that we're not doing. Like,
And so,
oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna say, like, so do you see that being like a repurposing potentially of current policing resources, or would we need to increase the force in order
Yeah.
to have there be more presence on transit?
Yeah, now you're tempting me to get into a financial question. Um, so, um, EPS in this EPS budget their budget needs to increase, and that's not because necessary this for this reason. One, we need to have more resource on the LRT, um, but two, our population's increasing.
Hmm.
EPS does make up the largest line item on our budget. I'm
Yeah.
not denying that. It's at 14.2% right now, I believe. It's a lot,
Hmm.
but it needs to be.
Yeah.
Every major city has its police services is right up there, and usually it's the number one thing. So we're not an outlier in that.
Hmm.
Um, what we are an outlier in is how fast we are growing.
Hmm.
So the rate at which our city is growing is, and that's a good thing. People moving here is not a bad thing necessarily, but we need to be able to keep up with, like, all of our services need to be able to keep up with that. And one of those services is EPS. So
Hmm.
one of the challenges that we're going to face on the next council is, as our population grows, there's going to be services such as EPS that are going to need more money. They're
Hmm.
going to need a bigger budget. And that's not me trying to be super, that's just a financial fact. If we're
Hmm.
going to provide the same safety and at least just maintain what we have in safety and security, and I believe we need to increase it, particularly LOT, as I mentioned. But if we're just going to maintain it, the budget still needs to increase
Hmm.
because our
Hmm.
population is growing. That's just common math right there. So yes, I do believe we need to give more resources to EPS.
Hmm. Well, and looking at EPS, like the tension between the Edmonton Police Service,
Yeah.
Police Commission, and City Council in recent years has, left people wondering how these three can really work together. What are your
Yes.
thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think it's no small it's well known that our current city council does not have the most positive relationship with EPS.
Hmm.
Um, and I've spoken with many EPS officers, and I gossip. They are very professional. They're very cool about it, and they don't. But I also know many of them in private.
Mm.
And as soon as you get them in a private setting, as soon as you get them talking, or like off the books, and hence I'm not naming anyone, um, there are very keen words that I would not be repeating.
Yeah.
Um, they feel. there's a sense of neglect, abandonment, or just them being used as a scapegoat for a lot of things,
Mhm.
when in reality they're doing their job and they're
Mhm.
doing it well. We have a really, really good police force, and it's become almost kosher to bash on them.
Mm. Mhm.
Like, and there may be things we need to work on with them, like training in certain specific aspects, absolutely. But that requires us to have a collaborative relationship instead of just bashing on them all the time. The the, the reason it's so important is there, and I'll take it back to the finance a little bit. The way their budget works is a little different than every other budget in the city.
Mhm.
We set what the budget is as council. They choose how to spend it.
Yeah.
We don't get any input whatsoever into how they spend that. And that, I think that's has been the cause of animosity on this current council, is they
Mhm.
feel that they should have some say in that.
Mhm.
But I think we all often forget it's by design that we don't. Like that's
Mhm.
intentional, because of multiple reasons. There's operational security reasons. If they need to get a sign off for every major like drug bust here and there, that's, you can see where that's a problem. Um, if they need to reallocate funds at the last minute for safety and security reason, again, huge. They can't go through the long process and wait 6 months for council to vote on it.
Mhm.
Um, and then, quite frankly, most city councilors do not understand how their budget works. Like, from a budgeting standpoint, I understand how it looks and works. I get that.
Mhm.
But where the priorities should be is something that we as citizens don't have as much understanding as they do. So
Mhm.
and it works like this in every city in the country.
Yeah.
Every city council does not actually have say over how their own police departments do their budget. So this isn't anything new, but for some reason we've chosen that as kind of the point we're angry about for some reason.
And so what role do you see the public playing in holding, institutions like the EPS accountable?
Right. So I think we I think I just went on how much I want to support EPS, but we also absolutely still need to keep them accountable. They have a
Mhm.
lot of power in our city, and with great power comes great accountability and responsibilities. I almost quoted Spider-Man there. Sorry. Um, but it's true. They have to be held accountable, and I think the core to that is making sure that kind of going back to making sure that we have a relationship with them,
Mhm.
so that because there's a committee that we have, or so few of the councilors will be on that committee with city council or with EPS. But then
Mhm.
that also comes back to another layer of making sure that we as city councilors are accountable to our constituents.
Mhm.
So if right now we have this huge dysfunction right now where people don't feel like there's good collaboration with their city councilor, so ergo, how can they feel there's good collaboration with EPS if their city council is supposed to represent them to EPS?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, there's a few breaks in the chain here. So I think we need to fix the collaboration with your city councilor first, and then we can start addressing making people feel like their EPS is being held accountable.
Mhm. Well, and this is an interesting election because it's the first time that, Edmonton is seeing political parties at the municipal level. Do you have any affiliations with any of the political parties in Edmonton, and how does that shape, your priorities?
Yeah, so I'm affiliated with PACE, the
Mhm.
Principled Accountable Coalition for Edmonton. Um, and really with PACE, how that shapes us, we're all a bunch of like-minded individuals that kind of came together here. And for a few things, like, we believe in getting back to core services, being more friendly to our business community, bring some safety and security back to the city, and focusing on first things first, like those
Mhm.
core services I was mentioning earlier. So those are all like high level what we're all kind of about. So every PACE candidate has those values, but every one of us is a little different too. Um, with PACE, I remember the one of the first meetings when we were discussing. We have a policy of there is no whip in PACE at all.
Mhm.
None of us are forced to vote together. We have a priority list of whenever it comes to our voting intentions, it is the ward first, city a close second, and party a distant third.
Mm.
So that's how we feel that And I personally feel that if it's a little bit more like that on other levels of the government, it'd be a lot nicer. But in the municipal level, we have a chance to create a party and create a system that it does work that way.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what we want to do. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, so that's kind of what PACE stands for.
Wonderful. And, understanding kind of political leanings helps voters understand a bit more
Mhm.
about values and that sort of thing. Do you have any affiliations at the provincial or federal level you'd like to share at all?
No, I am not affiliated with the UCP or the NDP. I have no affiliation with them, and I think that that's a good thing.
Hmm.
Like because I feel my job as a counselor would be to work with whoever Albertans elect.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, like right now, we've talked before, like bad relationship with the province. We have a council that, like, if pick on our current councillor for now, I won't name him, but if pick on, he has it's very clear which one of those two parties he'd prefer to work with.
Hmm.
He's made it very obvious. Um, I don't think that's a good idea. I think we have to be able to work with whomever, so that
Hmm.
when we do actually criticize, if the chance comes that we do have to criticize them for whatever reason, it's seen as an actual valid
Yeah.
criticism instead of just taking political snipes. And
Hmm.
and it also gives us the ability to actually work with the province.
Yeah.
If the NDP wins in a year, I will be happy to work with them.
Hmm.
If the UCP keeps winning or keeps holding power right now, I'll be happy to work with them too.
Hmm.
And when either party messes up or does something that is not in the best interest of the city, and after we've had those backroom discussions, say, hey, let's try and work this out, and
Yeah.
it still doesn't work, then I feel that my criticisms will come from a place of validity and not just political expediency.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, Mark, this has been such an insightful conversation, and I've really appreciated hearing your perspectives. If you're going to leave anything with our viewers today, whether or not they're in your ward, what would you like to leave behind today?
Yeah, this is a critical election. I know politicians say that all the time. But this election, we quite literally get to decide what our city's going to look like. We literally get to decide the makeup of the urban planning, the tax structure, everything. This is a turning point for our city. What direction do you want to go? And that's really up to you, Edmonton. So
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to share with me. It's been really lovely to hear from you. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. I echo what Mark has said. This is an important election, so stay engaged, stay informed, and please get out and vote. In 2021, Edmonton had very dismal voter turnout. We want to see that higher. We want to see people actually casting their ballot for what matters. So thank you for joining us today. And thanks again, Mark. I really appreciate your time.
much. I appreciate it.